Wholeness and balanced vibrations, everyone. It is another time and an opportunity for us to connect. We were just here in the space. We can't get enough of each other. It's always happening. And we ran over a couple technical mountains and cleared the space. And so now we're here. We're lighting up some sage. You're here with the key makers. There's 9 of us on the panel today, which is great because that all fits in the screen really well. And not to mention, there's going to be a lot of power and a lot of connection and a lot of energy that's going to be transmitted through this next hour, hour and a half. Today, also, as you may know, we started last week and we started to really look at how we can speak to each person in a deeper way about the questions that they have. We realize that each person does have their different perspectives, but the great thing is that we've been able to narrow down most of those perspectives into 9 archetypes, and we call that enealogy. And here you have today some enealogists. These are beings that are here and on the planetary system with us that are experiencing their life just like you. And in this process, we're all coming to learn more and more about ourselves and our connection through each other. And again, we're using a system that is thousands of years old, that even traces back to the Ennead. It traces back even to obviously some of Goethe's work on the Enneagram, even Marco Rodin's work on the Enneagon. And it's just the awareness of the power of the 9 and what that can do if you use it in a template style format to bring a greater level of awareness of the space and the realm that we're in. I know we're used to our 7 colors on the rainbow, but again, I always mention there are 2 more colors, which are black and white. They are not the absence of colors, they are colors themselves, and they should be added, giving us a total of 9. This brings us to a great level of perfection because we're looking for a universal knowledge. I'm always on the lookout for something that is going to be able to speak to all of us in the unique language that we speak, in realization that we are all not the same. We don't have the same position to do the same thing, etc. And this is what makes us so splendid, because when we figure out that we can't do something, we realize that it's an opportunity for someone to step into the co-creation with us. If we were alone, then we wouldn't be breathing air, water, and all the major things that are here sustaining life are all here with us. And we have time now to go into more of an intimate relationship with ourselves and with each other. And we have to admit, though, that many of us have not been embarking on that level of intimacy in a while. And this is why we're saying first, learn who the being is. Because as you communicate with someone, then you're looking to actually receive something in that transference. So ultimately, to receive everything that you want, you only need to know how to communicate. And so here we go. We do this way for those that are just jumping in today and you're wondering what is all this about. It only requires that if you have a question, or you can just listen, you can observe, as which is also a great state. But if you have a question, you can ask that question inside the chat by paraphrasing it first with the word question. What we're also asking you to do is actually dial into enealogy, because we do at times get a lot of questions, and these questions have a tendency to be redundant. And while we give somewhat the same answers, we realize that, hey, you know what? We can get a little bit more specific. Who are we talking to, and what emphasis or what kind of energy or essence are you bringing? This is what we can use enealogy for in this session. So what you'll do is you'll take the day that you were born on. In this case, I was born on the 22nd, and you would add that together and then simplify. So in this case, if it's 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 is already simplified. You're simplifying into a single digit number. But if you're on the 19th, obviously 1 plus 9 is 10. Then you would have to do the additional math. 1 plus 0 is 1. So this means you would be a 1. It's as simple as that. And through that ability, we're able to dial in, like we are tuning in a clock just a little bit more, tuning in a frequency a little bit more. We're able to tune in a bit more of where you're coming from and what space you're projecting from. So that way we can be of greater assistance. So how it works again is those questions come in. I start asking those questions live here on air. It is someone that is inside of the chat box that you're in right now. We have moderators all over the place. Giving much love, honor, and respect to our moderators and our pillars holding the space, that they'll be taking your question and then they'll be funneling it over here to the chat with me. And then what I'll do is I'll read that question out, and the key makers make the internal decision of who would more or less be best to address the question. Also, we always have specific specialties happening here. As you know, there's 2 more additional tribe members here and key makers here on the line with us today. And so that means there'll be some more dialing in. So in order for us to really get acquainted with one another, it's important that each person here introduce themselves and let you know a little bit about what they do. You already know me. I'm Sevan Bomar. Some folks call me the key maker, and many other things too. And I'm here. I'm in the space. I'm an evolver. I do what I do. You should know me already. So I guess counterclockwise, we could start rolling with our panel, and they can let you know a little bit more about what they get to and how they've been coordinating energy within their lives. I guess we could start with you, Alistair, and we can hit the
Yeah,
counterclockwise, whatever that means, like on your end.
totally. So my name's Alistair Hart. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, and I help people overcome self-worth issues to build indestructible self-worth and fuse that into their spiritual practice day to day so they can live a high potential in this beautiful heaven on earth that we're in. Wholeness.
Wholeness and balance vibrations, family. I trust you well. My name is Curtis Aru. Like I said, a reflection of you, and honored to be in this space today. I'm a conscious entrepreneur. My business is called One Tribe HMU, where we offer handcrafted crystal orgone devices, crystal accessories, plus mindful edutainment. Where we go into schools and we engage the children, dusting off some of the old stories and bringing them back to life as book beats and griotic expressions as storytellers. Wholeness.
Wholeness, everyone. I'm Joy, and I'm just here to shine my love light. As a number 4 and 6, I bring that foundational love in, and I'm all about nourishment. I'm all about figuring out what really nourishes you and helping you discover what your plant allies are along the way. Lovely to be here in service to all of you.
Wholeness. So my name is Niva Shah, and my pet subject is actually light, quantum physics, consciousness, and it's brought me together in this field of being like a consciousness coach and an intuitive artist. And I coach people back to their joy, as I'm called the art of inner joy, using my art, which I call my heart transmissions, and my coaching. And I've recently become a reality transurfing coach and trainer, because I like to transurf this holographic quantum field and take you to your highest potential. Wholeness.
Wholeness. Everyone, my name is Paige Flowers. I am a content creator, a teacher. I love experience as a 9 and a 7. So I'm all about, enjoying whatever life has to bring. I also love to assist others on their journey with personal development. So, you can find me on youtube.com/Paige Flowers. And yeah, let's connect. Wholeness.
Wholeness. My name is Gail Force, Gail George. I am a creative economist and a content curator, which means that I specialize in the strategic allocation of energy, time, and resources to help people identify and prosper from their uniqueness. So all that to say is I help people bring their uniqueness to the marketplace. I'm a psychic number 1, which is the primum, and my journey to finding my own uniqueness is what has informed my life path. And I've also found that my destiny number, which is 8, kind of has positioned me to do that for Saturnal people who are on that Saturnal kind of path, which can be challenging or very intense. And so I found myself working with people who've had that vibration or that life path mostly. And I'm really excited to be here. Wholeness.
on this sister, brother life. I know you. Your mic is not on. I'm trying to text you about it, but your sound may not be plugged in or connected. Well, our brother life figures that out. Great brother, working with really empowering our children since day one. I know y'all heard me speak about life and his projections that he's pushing into the reality right now through chess and community, working with inner city youth. And let's see if he's able to get his mic on point.
Can you hear me now?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. Brother Sevan said it all. My name is Life. I work with predominantly with a lot of youth development, youth coach, youth counselor. I teach at the University of Georgia in the School of Social Work. And I'm a spoken word artist. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I'm just a human being that's here to do my job, my part on this.
All right. Okay, we got one more of our sisters.
One more.
Yeah.
Wholeness. Wholeness. My name is Déesse Wigeby. So I specifically deal with womb healing, and I help women and myself heal the whole self, or the wholeness, through emotional, spiritual, self-care. So that's my main concentration. However, I'm also a soul coach with Sacred Energy, so I deal with everyone as well. Thank you. Wholeness, everybody.
There you have it, tribe. There, your key makers. They are in full force and ready to do what they do. So we're going to go ahead and get right into this today. I'm going to start answering questions, or asking questions, and then getting those answers. And I also wanted to say, we get all the questions in. Sometimes we see some of these questions may have either been answered before, or kind of like common sense. So in order to really be on point with the timing and everything, I will omit sometimes the question. So if you find that your question wasn't asked, it's always good to really think about the questions that you're asking, and then also check out some of the past material. We even just went over 23 days of a powerful build and a meditation to get more connected with self. So just remember, if you're just tuning in, there's so much for you, and all this will make total sense, but you're going to have to invest the time into yourself. So the first question here is that it's from a number 5. The number 5 saying, I'm not a great communicator. It wasn't always this way though. I stutter and I have a difficulty in articulating clearly without messing up. I feel it might be a trauma. How can I heal this? And that is the question today that we begin with. One here want to speak from experience of having issues with articulating themselves. I know for me personally, it's always been about practice. That even right now, I deal with communicating with beings and people and all sorts of stuff all the time. But what I am willing to do is I'm willing to come back in there, and I'm able to give it another shot, because I know that the more that I do it, the better I get at it. To speak of, just specifically to stuttering, um, it just comes right off my mind right now is when I was watching the documentary about um, the mycelium, which is fantastic fungi. That the gentleman said that was his condition, that he stuttered and he had a hard time expressing himself. And when he got into nature, because at the end of the day, what it was is that it was almost like so much awareness, so much power, and so much ability that it was coming through a small throughput called the mouth. And so when it all tries to come out at one time, it just comes out jarbled, often misunderstood. However, when you get opened up to, and that was it felt like the gentleman's situation, is that when you get up to all of the other ways, up to the awareness of all of the other ways that you can communicate beyond even just communicating directly with people in English, this also allows you to deal with that part in the way that you would be inspired to actually have that connection rather than be in some type of fear. So that's what I just have to add to it, because that was an immediate scenario that I remember demarcating in my mind that, wow, it was amazing that he was able to work through that. I have a brother that stutters. He went to the end of going to the military. He was a different personality in the sense that he was very quiet and shy. And when he went into the military, it did do some work to allow him to be more confident in himself and, you know, his physique and all these different things. And he doesn't stutter now. So, you know, that's just some direct situations that I feel that would offer some insight onto solutions into something like communication, especially being as a 5.
Also, yeah,
Okay.
go on, Gail first.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I was just going to say, as far as trauma, trauma does impact the way we engage the world, right? And so what I noticed from the question was a judgment of self, in that he feels like he's messing up, or the person feels like they're messing up. And I would encourage, you know, particularly when coming through trauma, to ease back on the self-judgment of what's happening. You know, it is what it is. And even from the mantras that we got for the 5 was ambidexterity and knowledge. So kind of linking with what Sevan was saying, that there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot going in there, there's a intention to communicate it, and the capacity to use, you know, both sides of the brain and really bring forth that message in a profound way. So now my suggestion would be to ease back as far as the self-judgment, or the feeling like, you know, it's not coming out the way, you know, you want to, or the, you know, whatever frustration that might be adding to the issue, so that you can ease into a different, more smooth way of communicating.
Also, with number 5s, they're very active. And one of the things they have to do is to really slow their cycles down, because the brain, like Sister Gailful said, is very, very active. And this is one of the traits of number 5. So what helps is, on awakening in the morning, in the Jyotish numerology book, there is a specific mantra for number 5s. And what is advised at sunrise is to write your mantra down, literally in a circle, and you keep writing the mantra down. And what this actually does, it gets the brain and the mind and your motor skills with your hand, with your brain skills, and it gets the reflex going, and it actually helps to slow the system down. The second thing I would advise also is the alternative nostril breath. So breathing in from the left nostril whilst you're closing the right nostril, holding, and then breathing out from the right nostril whilst you're closing the left nostril, and then the other way around, breathing in from the right. And if you can do this, these 2 exercises first thing in the morning, it will help to calm you down. Another thing for number 5s is their service to people is based on karma yoga. Karma yoga means service to others. And by them actually putting their services forward by helping others, it gives them that confidence, the confidence of being out there, the confidence of communication, because they are driven very much by communication. And of course, increasing your magnesium levels that we spoke about for number 5s, increasing your salad intakes. And number 5, the dominant color is green. So being in nature, walking in nature, drinking your green juices, and trying to meditate, again, using the breath meditation. The alternative nostril breath meditation before bed is really fantastic. You can also check which nostril is more dominant by just breathing into your hand like this. And you can see whether the left or the right nostril is more dominant. And when you want to go to sleep, it is better to have your left nostril more dominant, so that the right brain hemisphere is more dominant, so you can go into a relaxed state. And if your right nostril is more dominant, then you just have to breathe for half an hour through your left nostril, because this increases the breath through the Ida meridian, which is the moon, which helps you with the creation process throughout your sleep. Wholeness.
I would also like to add, like, it was epic. And for something that might help with being able to kind of support the voice and focus on the larynx, and also the vocal cords, is a lot of the time trauma is pain is stored in the voice. And you can feel where someone's at by where they're at in sometimes in how they talk. So if there's what feels like a cascading or a stuttering going on, it's an opportunity to kind of explore where that initial torsion or tightness perhaps came from, which is the self-inquiry, which is doing it yourself, maybe kind of dipping into your memories, early childhood, or also hiring a coach or finding someone that can help you unpack perhaps why there is tension or trauma stored with speaking your truth, or being able to share what feels true for you. And then also it can help, I find, is being able to change your state. So I'm sure that you've probably noticed that in some types, when you're in flow, you don't have any stutter. And it might be doing something that you love, whether it's playing sport or walking with a friend or whatever that is, like being able to get yourself into that state where you can kind of shift your energy into that to amplify how you really feel inside, so that you kind of melt the blockages of the stutter. Wholeness.
May I add one more thing to what Alistair just said? That was really beautiful, Alistair, about the voice. And so each chakra has a seed sound, a beej. It's called a beej, which activates the very center point of each chakra. And the sound for the throat chakra, which is to do with your communication, is hum. And that activates the beej, the central core, the bindu point of the chakra. And so if you can also, there's plenty of hum YouTube videos that are out, you can just type that in, but even yourself just saying hum, hum, and chanting that, you know, whilst you're even writing your mantra in the morning would help you.
Also, to add one more thing is you can grab a piece of emerald. That's one of the crystal friends that can aid you into balancing self-empowerment and help balancing the nervous system. So that piece of emerald, raw emerald, is pretty economically friendly. So you probably can get one for under like $6 if, you know, or whatever currency the equivalency is.
I would like to add actually something to this whole thing, because I'm always constantly looking for ways to innovate. And I'm also like a really good observer when I have an opportunity to be. I know that there's some that are in the audience right now that are excellent at taking notes and actually show up to these sessions with a pen and a paper to write down these suggestions. But I will for sure say, if I was in the audience and I was hearing all these suggestions, I would, by the time you were done, because I just am feeling the flow and loving the connection and hearing what I'm hearing, I can't say unless I went back and replayed everything again that I would even be able to know where to start. So that's the first thing, is to remember, if you get a long answer from the key makers about techniques and what to do, it is good to go back to the recording and write those things down and itemize them. I would also like to open the possibility and the potential for those that are actually listening to the call today, and there's thousands of us, that if you have a very strong, what do we call that? Like if you could take the notation really well, as far as just distilling the actionables, and you want to work with us in us publishing something after these shows, like just a blog or blog post that says, and here was the question from a number 5, and here were the solutions for that. This keeps us from having to do, like, in a month we would have the entire earth solved. But if we didn't write this down, we would actually come back a month later and find that we would have to start all over again. So I do want to, and always thinking about ways to enhance. And it's also, interactivity is a big key. And we want to open up even more than just asking silly questions or even doing polls. We want to open up ways where others can be interactive with their skill and what they can do. But I can see a real need to have a reference point somewhere where other number 5s, because eventually all that data can be just put there for number 5s. Like, here's a number 5 that actually has a problem with communication. Wow, imagine a number 5. That's the greatest level of growth for this being, to know how to communicate. Here are the suggestions that were made. So we can actually, if you're out there right now and you feel like that's something that you could do, you could get started right now. And then when you come at us and say, hey, what you can do in the support in the bottom of the site and say, here's what I got, you can send it right in there, and then we can take a look at it. That'll give us awareness if we need to ping it back to you and say, can you do this? Or, wow, thanks so much for this. And then we can get something else happening for everyone else here also, that, again, they may be on the road listening to this on their headphones, taking care of the baby and doing other things where they cannot take the notes, but they actually need this information, whether it's for a sister, a brother, a child, a auntie, a cousin, you name it, right? Like, even when we come in here and somebody asks a question specifically about themselves and something that they need, it's always somebody else that at least knows someone that needs that same thing. So this kind of power and this knowledge is very vital for us to especially be able to go through later and say, here's what worked and here's what didn't, which is what we can do if we create a post out of it. So I wanted to just open that channel on that avenue, so that way these words of wisdom don't go in vain, because there's so much that's delivered here. It can be a bit much if someone doesn't have the opportunity to go back and revisit it. I'm going to keep going with the questions because that was like question number one. We're just getting started. No need to activate rapid fire yet. It's about 10:03. We're going to probably go to about 11:30, somewhere in there. And then we're going to get into our funding for the day. So this next question is actually from a path number 8. And this 8 says, what is the best way for an 8 genealogy path who sees others that are further ahead in their growth than they are, and it says, and specifically than he is, to work past jealousy and negativity? I am 22 years old. And I do first want to paraphrase this with thanks for your honesty, because honesty is the greatest level of power. So you already got one leg up on this. If you actually have the issue where you do see others that they have been achieving something or doing something, and then there's an immediate dart like of a larceny, like, somewhat of what they would say as a hating, this is for sure a natural reflex of certain paths for a variety of reasons. But I did want to let you know that it's appreciated that you would come in at 22 years old and actually ask, what's up with my hating? It feels this, I feel natural into this with the 8, but it's always about people who are achieving more. Where am I at with all of this? Someone got something special for that over here, Keymakers? You got something special? How to get rid of the hate?
No, I don't think I have anything special, but I would say, you're 22 years old, man. Like, give yourself time to develop. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, this all comes with a level of practice. Where I'm at in my 40s was completely different in my 30s and completely different in my 20s. And sometimes when we're younger, we put that level of stress on ourselves because we want that immediate. I want to be where he or she is at right now without having to go through whatever experience he or she's been through. So don't put that level of pressure on yourself. Like, give yourself time to grow. That's what I would add. And this goes for any number.
I would like
Also,
go ahead.
yeah. Also for number 8, their intestines, they tend to have like a dry constituency because number 8 is a slow, dry planet. So have a look at also your cleansing, how clean are your intestines? Have you done an internal cleanse? Because often whatever you're harboring within might be other parasites and all sorts of things that basically need to be cleansed from the system in order for you to then have more self-acceptance and move on. So wholeness.
The one thing I wanted to say about this awareness of your dark nature regarding the number 8 is, I think, takes you a long way in the self-knowing, knowing yourself that, hey, I'm a bit, dowdy or, jealous of other people. So don't be too hard on yourself, but because there's no right or wrong, just understanding your own dark nature so that you can see the opposing, behavior, so that you'll know exactly where you want to be. That's what I would say about the number 8. Go ahead, Paige.
Wholeness. So being a 9, I bump into a lot of 8s. And so very close 8s, actually. And so what I've noticed about them in coming into genealogy, a lot of the 8s that I know are heavily in the entertainment industry and known really well. And so as an 8, hey, take it slow. You'll have your day in court. You'll have your big grand recognition. You just have to go within and not be focused on what's going on externally. How come I'm not getting there? You'll get there once you go within. That's the thing about an H journey. Your journey is about empowerment. You'll have it all. You're like the master of this system that we have going now. You're able to easily manipulate things and maneuver things and do things as you wish. You are your own governor. You the governor. You don't have to hate on whatever else is going on. This is what you run. And so as an 8, you have to know that, because I've seen where there has been some imbalances with 8s. If they're not balanced, you have that energy that you can send things through an infinite loop, like the 8 energy, this infinite loop. And you can send others in an infinite loop as well, with your own natural magic that you have. So, to remember that you have it all. You are the all. So that's my take on that.
And just to jump in on the 8 energy being that Saturnal energy, I remember years ago being told that you'll get that in time. You're going to get it. The power is going to come in time. And so allowing for the maturing to happen over time. But in the meantime, because, it's like, okay, so that's cool, but what about today? Is to get into your own uniqueness. And, there are ways to tap into what is unique about you. We talk about everybody has, a unique fingerprint, thumbprint, footprint, the spiral of your head. There's a uniqueness that is just yours. And when you really find it and tap into it, it's not something you do. It's not, it's a lot more fundamental than, how we might want to describe it. For example, some people might say, okay, I'm unique and I'm going to get this tattoo, but everybody has a tattoo now. The tattoos might be different, but the uniqueness goes, really to the core and the essence of who you are. And that search and that find does begin to eliminate the jealousy, because everybody has it, everybody has it. And it begins to allow you to cultivate a really appreciation for what your uniqueness, your gifts, but then that of everybody else. And because you don't need theirs, you got your own, there's nothing, there's nothing that's greater than what you have, because this is yours. You can only otherwise be a copy of someone else. So there's no need to covet anything because you have it all. So.
And also 8 is a very sound path. Like obviously it's related to time. And so at 22 also, I mean, that says it all right there is, especially 2 + 2 is 4. So you're halfway there. So what does that other half actually consist of? Because it's very fractal like. And when we look deep into the path of the 8, they're actually tied into skills like a craftsman, things that take some time to actually learn how to do, but then you're able to bring it into mastery. So I would for sure say that if you wanted to collapse time, because that could be like a real phobia right there. It's like, oh my goodness, if I'm an 8 and everything is associated with long hauls, things that take a lot of time to build, like riches and jewels and those kind of things, and that's all that path. But I'm only 22, so this means that I got a long time to actually wait. That's not necessarily the case. What it is, though, is that you have to put the dedication into actually learning a real skill that you forge with. And then tech technically, the faster that you do that, you will be collapsing the time with what you would want to receive with a skill. So you got to hone into something. It's like right now, I put Ara on this piano software. Actually, she asked for it. This like little, she's got a piano, like a keyboard, and then it has obviously the holder for the notes. And you put a little iPad there. And there's a program right now that they have for kids and adults alike, where it's like the easiest way for them to learn piano. And I was even walking in there on her today, and she's still in there learning. Like she's found something that she likes to do. Now it's going to take some time for her to learn piano, but what she's going to come out with is she's going to come out with a skill, and then that skill is going to also teach her through what she learns in music a lot of things about life. So at 22, as a sister Gail is saying about the uniqueness, she's saying directly, you need to find your uniqueness and start developing that skill and stop focusing on everybody else and what they've achieved and what they've done, because you're just wasting the time. You're wasting time that if you didn't waste that time, you would be exactly where they were and beyond in many cases. So it's just how to collapse time, dealing with the subset. Also, I do want to paraphrase everything that we're saying here today. Like, nobody is specifically one number generally. Like, they have traits and things that have acted on them that give them a little essence of other things. Actually, we have an essence of everything in us in these paths. So I also don't want this to become where you feel like that you're being put into a specific role and this is being cast over you. You're like this. Actually, the easiest way to use these powers, which is to have fun, as Niva was mentioning, our last Keymakers, the easiest way to go through this is to actually start figuring out how to use your alchemy, where you're like, okay, yeah, this path is a little bit on the jaded side sometimes. It could be a little dark and melancholy. So I need to bring in some sun in my life, or I need to bring in some love in my life. That's also a good mate for the number 8 is a 2, where there's a lot of love. There's a lot of getting out of that whole brittle aspect of seeing things, because you got to admit that when you're having fun and you're smiling, you feel comfortable with where you are, you're not really looking at what other people have and feeling that that's something that you want to achieve and you're upset about that. So this does have a lot to do with your direct environment and how you're perceiving, like, what is next for me. And as a number 8 is going to try to have that plan out there. This is what's next. I'm going to do this. Once I get this trade, then I'm going to develop that. Knowing that plan is key, because when not knowing it, you could be looking at somebody else and be like, man, see, how are they getting there? And I know but you don't actually have a plan yet to unlock that aspect of yourself. So just some insight on some practical stuff to really look at and to see how you can get into another state with yourself that you'll be more comfortable with what's happening. And as Life said, still remember you're 22. So even everything that we're talking about right now is wise words. I'm a big fan of, if you could take these wise words, you will be as old as the oldest person here on the line, and 2-3 times older than that person if you put it into application. So this is how you kind of defeat the whole time thing, because 8 has that power as infinity, by not saying it's not like a physical time that you got to wait until you're old to enjoy things. It's that you need to do things like an old person, if you may, like an elder. You need to be, very vetted in how you go about this and be serious about how you're going to get your craft happening and what's going to go on. And that's why what Paige was saying about a lot of actors, directors mainly, a lot of them being 8s, because they're very serious. Like, you imagine that now you get this person on the set, they think they're the hottest star, and you got this upstart that has got all this energy thinking they're going to become the hottest star, but you got to tell both of them how this is going to be done. And that's really where the 8 comes in. But you got to know about that stuff, because even a natural talent is going to sniff that if you don't have the skill, but natural talent respects the skill. I want you to be aware in music, the natural talent that still knows how to play it is always looking for the mentor that knows the skill. Like, I can tell you the harmonic chords, I can tell you the Pythagorean scales, the fourths, the fifths, every single thing about the history and the knowledge of music from the time that we started beating on our chest. And that level of I'm weathered in this. I know my stuff. That's where the 8s really find themselves really thriving and doing well. So let's keep it moving through the questions. Lots of stuff happening here. We got a question for number 1. My spawn of interest, okay, very selective with the words here. My spawn of interest and studying is really big in everything beside my primary study, which is accounting. I really struggle finishing it, and it almost takes twice as many years for me. Any advice? So I guess that question is direct as it is. A 1 is asking that I'm interested in everything else but accounting. I guess this question kind of answers itself. Does anybody want to answer this about what maybe you should do with something that you're struggling to finish for a long time, but everything else can get done pretty easy?
Wholeness. All right, top speed family. This song on ping in first. The 1 energy, trailblazer. You can start anything. And you got this. You get the idea, you run with it, because you got the juice like that. And with that straightforward mentality, it tends to, like, you light the fire, you're going, you got your thrusters going, but sometimes you forget the come back around. You see the full picture because you move so fast. And like we just came from the 8 got that slow, and you're gonna see the whole rotation if you take your time and the wisdom. So that's one of those things you want to employ within yourself. Tap into that slow down energy. Breathe is a major component in this, and allowing yourself to sit within the breath, as the breath, takes us straight to the center. That's the pathway. So if you ever get confused of where you're going, slow down, take a bit, write down where you want to go, how you want to manifest, what you want to manifest exactly, what is the end goal. And by you doing just that, allows you to, turn it down just a notch for you to see another part, another facet of the goal or the projection that you're building. And being that then you're so fast moving, you got to do this constantly, consistently. Remind yourself every day. Like we just came off of a 23-day meditation, which gave me, again, as a one destiny number, more time to just sit, breathe consistently, and develop that habit. Because this is what you want to develop within yourself, to be able to slow down. You can finish, and you're going to finish strong, but you got to know where to slow down and employ other facets of yourself. And because tapping to the crystals, one of the crystals that help you dial into that space too is yellow crystal, really. And I'm gonna bounce it to another one of the Keymakers, because it's definitely a good one. Always.
And basically also for number ones, their power source is the sun. So really to use sun gazing as that will just energize you so much. And, wake up at sunrise. The best time to do the sun gazing is an hour after sunrise. And you gradually build this up. You can do it for a minute, for 1 week, 2 minutes, the following week, 3 minutes, and you build it up, build it up, build it up. So over a period of years, you can go on to, a whole hour of sun gazing. And the pishti powder for sun, which is the gem powder, is the pearl powder. To have that pearl powder before you go to bed, half a teaspoon mixed with honey, with a glass of warm water, and that will help to calm you throughout the night as you recollect yourself in the dream world. So wholeness.
My son is a son, so he's done a 1, and I find shyness. He's very shy, which is it's funny because it's sort of the opposite of, like, the sun shines, and so what happens, even though he's shy, everyone else sees him and always compliments, and overly so he gets drawn in. And so what I can see develop is that by the time he starts to get into his teenage years, that's going to get into his head. And then the word for number 1 becomes too. You're too this, too that, too bright. He's going to outshine, and always shining, and always showing off, and always. So the thing to be mindful with the number 1 is that, because you're a natural shine and you shine all the time, you can. You tend to overdo everything. And so in that sense, just balance, that these aspects of yourself, and not be too ambitious, too sensitive, too anything, so you can, control your energy. That's what I would say about a number 1.
Also, let's be also very clear with these questions, because it's important, because there's so many details to each path. It's speaking specifically to the question as a number 1. If you're doing something, this was mentioned inside the studio, that is related to accounting, because that was your specific question. You're struggling with this primary study of accounting. When you think about a path number 1, being a leader and working with, systems and actually leading people, numbers is actually the total opposite, really, of that kind of work. And that's what was mentioned here, which is very valid, because when you think about it, it's like, you're sitting there dealing with lots of repetition, checking things over and over again. Wow, this is an energy that really wants to, to basically really shine its light and actually express itself in a certain way. So this is 100% why, like we've talked about inside of ambassador training, what are the specific like jobs that certain paths excel at? And we had an exercise where what we did was, especially in the time that we're in right now, we looked at that list of different positions that each path would be good at, and we removed everything as an exercise. Each person removed everything from their path that they felt that couldn't even be done right now because of conditions that we're in. And then what remained there, they looked and chose what they feel like that they would really like to get into, because it not only harmonized with their path, it's something that also enlightens them to say, okay, this is going to be new for me, because and this is going to be something I want to do. Because if you go back into something that you really don't want to do, that doesn't get you anywhere. So even as a number one, when you say, well, there's other things, because a one could be good at anything, and that's why there's all these other different things that you're also engaged in. Having the ability to make that so focused like a beam and say, this is, although this is what I specifically want to do, because I'm seeing, of course, as a human being, it becomes very difficult for you to even read and listen to something at the same time. Any human being, like 95% of the human beings, cannot listen to TV and read at the same time at full comprehension. So this says that there is a limit to the way, no matter how, you know, multifaceted or whatever a person believes that they are, there is a limit to how they should be taking in information that is of a high priority. That's why you can't listen to something and look at something at the same time and comprehend them both, or read something and look at something at the same time, because both of those faculties need almost 80% of your attention to be able to function properly. So putting the intention into making sure that you're doing something that is really going to take you to the next stage. But I also have a feeling that by the way that the question was asked, you knew that. And what's happening is that it's possibly the accounting that's paying the bills. And this could be an entirely different question, but obviously we don't do something that we really struggle at doing, if unless somehow we either one feel so dedicated to it because the people that we're aligned with and we promise them or something like that, or that it is the only thing that we can actually find that we can make a living off of. And so the steps here are, since you're already aware that this is not something that you really want to be involved with, no one really likes to struggle, that you now have to put that investment and put that in time into actually figuring out of all the other things, how can you make your way in those things, in that one thing, and be sure with your uniqueness. I also, again, because the question is again answering itself. So just be encouraged to, of course, take all the advice here, but realize that you have to make that ultimate choice to move yourself out of a space that you don't want to be in. The next question, or you don't feel is going to have the right kind of future that you're looking into.
Brother, could I jump in and just say,
Sure.
for the one path as a destiny one, like moving forward, whatever you choose to do, it helps because your expansive energy is everywhere, right? Like give yourself a time limit. Go, I'm going to do, if it's accounting and you're nearly done through your accounting, and you can do, if you say, I'm just going to commit to it for 2 months, at the end of 2 months, see what happens. But moving forward, whatever you choose to do, give yourself like a finite amount of time to put all of your energy into it and see what the fruit that bears, and then reassess, rather than just kind of here and there. And so time is your friend in terms of sticking to a timeline.
Great recommendation. We're going to keep it going. So we have another question here from, okay, let's keep going here. Okay, so this question is actually from a 9. Wholeness Tribe, is the Holy Ghost speaking in tongues experience really something else according to what we're learning now? I feel that sometimes experiences I'm locked into beliefs. Okay, I get what's being said here. Okay, so to rephrase this, the person is asking, as a number 9, is the phenomena of Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues being limited by the beliefs that people have of what it's being used for currently, right? And I definitely want to chime in really brief on this. I believe absolutely so. I believe that when a person gets into a state where they go into total genuflection, this is like just really, really what we call bringing up the spirit. which is the action that takes place inside of yourself through extreme belief that turns into knowing, almost like a catharsism, that you tie in or tap into something that gives you this ability to not only speak foreign tongues, because you got to imagine, like, even all the animals and all these beings have a vocal or a frequency that they go by, that we're able to somehow in these cases even mimic the frequencies and the languages of what is being channeled. Is that limited to the specific tradition or belief? I do not believe so. I believe that it is a state or a frequency one can be in which they can actually connect and explore multiple things. That's my take on it.
Hold this, brother. Could you ask the question again to clarify?
The question is actually the person is asking in relation to speaking in tongues. And let me just get this screen correct here really briefly. So the question is basically in relation to the speaking in tongues, which of course is the Holy Ghost, which is a method within the church to if you go to Pentecostal, Baptist, holiness, they may call down the spirit, if you may. And the person's asking, is this phenomena possibly something else beside the dogmatic perception of what it is? Because it is kind of used specifically within a religious tradition, and it's very specific what people say is actually happening. But the person is saying, is the explanation of what it is being hindered by the dogmatic system's explanation of what it is? And my answer was yes on that. So just in case you give you the whole
Yes.
recap.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. So, me being a number 9, and loving music, but before I, got on my spiritual journey, I loved going to church and listening to the music. That was my favorite part, was the music and listening to the power, when you heard people chanting and speaking in tongues, and it was as if a spirit was just, arising. And it made all of us believe that it was, Jesus or whatever, you know what I mean? Because it was so powerful, but it was us, and it always has been us, still us. And so when you know this, you can begin to start, seeing like, okay, I know my power. Like, if I believe that this can happen and I know that this can happen, I say what I gotta say loudly, because it's not about what you say specifically. It's about how you say it. If you want to go there like, okay, I want to, manifest awakening on my spiritual journey. Okay, that's different than saying, I want to, and keep going on and very deep. Also, like when you watch the video, Sevan had posted this, and I think you were doing Lightning in the Bottle, the band video. If you watch that video, he's going in on talking about how tones and frequency and vibrations, you saying something is so powerful. I mean, he goes deep in it. So as a 9, you need to watch that video and see, if you might have some difficulties getting into speaking very deeply and getting into chants and saying mantras and things like that. Like, if you're having a difficult time with doing that due to the past going to church or whatever, I'm telling you, it would totally shift your schemata in a different way, where you'll be able to look at it like, okay, this is my power now, not their power. This is my power, and whatever I say can come into fruition, So giving thanks.
Giving thanks. You know what? I like that so much. I want to keep moving through the questions. That way we get some really crescendoed answers. Like, and that's what it is. The power comes from inside of you, and realizing that truth and knowing your frequency and how you can penetrate all things with it is where you're at. So the next question on question from a 6 is, why is our electromagnetic field so easily penetrated?
Well, as a 6, asking that question, I think we know, right, that our 6s, we are just tuned in and turned on by just about everything out there, right, as Venuses and so forth. So, right, that Venusian energy just loves to feel and to sense, and it comes along with the territory. And so, why is the electromagnetic field so messed up? Well, I guess I would say depending on your environment, right? Because as a 6, you're naturally tuned in and turned on to a lot of things. So it's very important for you to be aware of your environment and how it's impacting you. So that's what I would say, just in general, from a 6. And for me, what is very important for me helping keep my environment clean is, of course, we've all talked about the importance of just cleaning your body in general. So we would start there, and then looking also around you at your environments. Things that impact electromagnetism can be anything from your cell phone to your computer screen to the power lines outside the walls to the Wi-Fi's in the air, including what's coming through your screens to what you're consuming with your eyes. And I think, again, Venuses have to be very, very careful about this because of the tendency to want to have it all, to want to experience it all, good and bad. So just being very aware of your environment. And I'll let some of our other key makers come in with some other thoughts on that.
I would say that the electromagnetic field carries information. So there's information everywhere. Everything is information, as Joy mentioned, through your eyes, through your ears, through, you know, walking past someone. Their energetic field is carrying information. It's carrying, as we talked about, it's carrying their ancestors. It's carrying the conversations. It's carrying the energy that they're around all the time. So as Joy also mentioned about this hygiene, it's also really important to have your own spiritual hygiene and have this cleansing that you can do, that you can defrag at the end of each day. Or even if you feel something, you've been into a, you know, a tense environment, or you've gone into an area like a big UFC match, right, where everyone's spiritual hygiene's super dirty and everything's just going crazy, right? If you move through that field, you're like a big walking, talking magnet that's just going to have, like you'd wipe your hand across a dirty floor, you're going to have stuff on your hand, you know? So it's important to kind of defrag and release that from your field. And what I found is a really good tool is to visualize or imagine like the flower of life symbol, or, you know, whatever. Everyone has their own geometry as well, right? So if you can tap into and start to tune into what that look and feels like, and see that spiraling and swirling at the crown of your head, and it's different directions for each person, and start to see the sun and the moon energy pouring down into that disc and revitalizing it and filling it up and make it super sparkly and amazing and clean and rejuvenating. And then take your time to scan down your whole body through each of your chakras, through your whole energetic system, and moving out through your whole field. And then again, down into the earth, connecting to the earth, and then back up. And that is like the best electromagnetic shower that you can give yourself. And that's something that it's really important to be clear of what's in your field, because everything is information and energy, wholeness.
We're just saying too, brother, as lead you to our internal field, one of the things to be mindful of too is these devices that we have, Bluetooth, cell phones, computers, all of this technology here, again, gives off continuous frequencies, always pumping. So again, one of those ways to nullify some of those things that are coming in, because your Venus penetration is what goes on to something that's so magnetic as yourself. Cut it off, you know, so turn some of the things off. Be mindful of what you don't need on. The phone doesn't need to be on all the time. Bluetooth set don't need to be here all the time. So turn those things off. That's if you feel that sensitivity, you feel that coming. So hit the off button. It'll be okay. Top speed.
Absolutely. We're going to keep going through this great insights, brother. Also, just so everyone knows, you know, that the electromagnetic field is the communication, as our brother is saying. So if it's cut off, then there's no communication. And so literally you always have, that's why the fields look like they're penetrating each other in that concave design. And so you have that happening. What's really more key is filtration, right? Like the brother is saying, like cut that off, you know, choose what you want to connect with. It's going to be present. It's going to be there, but you choose how you're interacting in that relationship, right? So this next question here is from a number 5. It says, this is funny, my last psychedelic journey. The person said I was kicking and I was screaming, but from my memory, I had a great trip. Could it have been that the outside I was reacting to their energy, or just a little insight on, I know that's kind of like, I just read it because it was, it put me into a visual, but anyone have any insights on, somebody else saying that you had a totally different experience than what you thought you had? All right, so we'll go ahead and keep moving through it. That means y'all exercising discretion. I love it. Thank you so much, Keymakers, unless my microphone is off. But yeah, I guess, however you felt, I'm sure it was crazy for them, though, in conclusion. But I guess, it's all about you. So from a number 9 is saying, I would like to help with figuring out my plant herb allies in order to unlock my uniqueness that I'm struggling to discover. Is creating an ancestral altar necessary to tap into those powers? I don't want to always have something to say first because I'm the one reading the question, so I can always jump in right after the question, but I will lend something to that here in a moment. But hold the Ski Makers.
Well, this is what I will say. In my earlier days on the journey, I had an ancestor altar. You know what I mean? And again, that's all external. The 9 has it all. I mean, it can do everything. You don't need an ancestor altar unless you want one, but you don't necessarily have to have one. 9s, it will benefit you to be in nature, because we are very fiery. And so we can get angry very quick. That was something that I struggle with is I can get angry very fast, really fast, on fire, almost dangerous. But one thing that calmed me down was just nature in general. So all the plants, didn't matter what kind of plant it was, I loved it. Just being able to check in with the mother and just plant my feet or just hug a tree or take pictures of flowers or just go on walks. Those kind of things can help you a lot quicker on your spiritual journey. Also, being very fiery as well, like water can smooth out things as well for you too. Like just going to go, I love water, like just going to go sit by it, listening to it, soundscaping your environment, things of that nature. You also need a lot of green around, even though, you're a 9 and, it's important to have, red, pink, and burgundy and things of that nature in your environment. Some green can help too. Maybe buy you a plant or something, have life in your home. Because one thing that I noticed on my journey was that I went to a 6's home and they had life everywhere. They had butterflies in their house. They had they had plants everywhere. They had everything everywhere. And me being Mars, I came back, and this was a while back. I came back to my house and I was like, there's no plants. There's no life here. There's nothing here. And I said, I have to have some kind of green, some kind of life in my environment. It can't just be me, So one thing to do is you want to be around nature and things of that nature. And if you want to have an ancestor altar, you can, but just try to avoid the external deities. Avoid the external deities. You are everything. There's no need to have anything else outside of you. You are the altar. Just to throw that out there. Okay? Wholeness.
Wholeness. I also wanted to add in there, Paige. Wow, that insight is incredible. Like just in seeing how I guess because when we think of what is an altar anyway, beyond an expression of the things that we value the highest and the most, right? So there is absolutely nothing wrong with having, because you got to put something in your house. Like some people put a TV up there. So if there's a TV there, why couldn't there be something that is an expression of your highest endeavors? Like you may have pictures of your family there. You may have pictures or flowers or roses or different things that emit certain energy. So I think that when we use this term altar, it doesn't always mean, the last one from the crazy movie where they was up there, and it altar only means just what is there that you feel like that you cherish so much. And this is where actually even the sacrifice and the altar also got connected on a higher metaphysical level rather than the as below version, which is that generally what a person cherishes the most is on the altar. And it's just saying that this is what I know I received from the experience that I'm having and what I'm cherishing, not this is what I'm willing to sacrifice and give away because it was already received. And because the altar is made from things that you already have received. So that's all I wanted to add to that, just in, such a beautiful build on that.
I want to jump in and just add, as we're talking about relationships with plants, right? Well, and that is what I wanted to say was that as we look to know the plants, right, to get to know them, it is a relationship. And so I think for a 9 energy to understand that as you enter into any type of, sort of plant experience, that it really is a relationship that you develop between yourself and the plant, and it will change over time. And so for really any number that is looking to get closer to the plants, walking out in nature and finding a special place or a tree and just taking notice of the plants that are around you, getting local is very, very key. It's all around you. This isn't anywhere you need to travel great distances to see. In my yard, for example, I have it's considered a weed. It's called lemon balm, and it grows everywhere. You plant it one place and then it just thrives all over your yard like a mint would. And lemon balm is actually quite calming plant, and it is said to make the heart happy. And so I was kind of going through a period of time in my life, and I was like going out in my yard and I'm like, oh my God, Joy, the lemon balm is all around you. It's speaking to you, right? So sometimes they appear to you one time or many times. And so you come into the plant world as it's relationship based. And so I think for 9s, that's an important thing to keep in mind. And you can introduce these relationships in a variety of ways. Very easy, just to sip some herbal teas and get to know some plant spirits that way, and then you can ingest them in your foods and things. So it's a nice gentle way to begin your relationship with the plants.
And also for number 9s to keep because their system tends to be quite acidic because of the fiery Mars energy, to keep their doshas more of a kapha dosha, to increase the kapha foods like cooling foods like yogurts, and to increase more raw food and increase their iron intake. And one thing that really helps number 9s is a lot of carrot juice. It helps to calm their system down. And as Sister Joy mentioned, the calming teas also helps them. So yeah, wholeness.
Wholeness. All right, so we're going to keep moving through this. I know there's also a lot that the Keymakers are holding, and especially in relation to personal altars. There's many different practices that you can go in with yourself and to actually find things that resonate with you. Obviously, maybe a good exercise is to go and find the things that you resonate with. You can use genealogy for that. There's a Jordish numerology book also available with many different correspondence in it. And then actually creating some variant or form of things around you that resonate who you are is always a great idea. So a personal altar is the key, keep going with it to reflect what you hold dear to you the most. There's next question here is actually from a question from a path number 3. And the question is how to focus on your passion if you actually have more than one passion. Recurring question. How to choose one in order to manifest it. I mean, come on, somebody demystify this already.
I'm always saying every week, like, follow your highest excitement. Like literally in each moment, what is your highest excitement in this moment now? Right now, this moment, not yesterday, not tomorrow, in this now moment. What is going to give you the most joy? And that is when you know to follow that. And when you follow that, that's what creates your electromagnetic field around you in this holographic universe, in this quantum reality that we live in. And that will, because we live in this mirrored reality, what is reflected back to you then will be the reflection of you being in your highest joy in this moment. I keep saying it every week. Follow your highest joy, like follow your highest. And it's as simple as watching a child. We watch children they're constantly following their highest joy. If they don't want to do something, they won't do it because they know, because they don't have the stupidity of the mind. It is our mind. Like, keep going into your heart. Your heart is your internal guidance sat nav system. It's the only way, not the mind. Chop your head off.
Yeah, I would add, you know, ask yourself, is what you're chasing, are you chasing it because it's going to help, you know, increase your bank account? Are you chasing it because it's going to make you feel good? Is it going to feed you? Is it going to feed somebody around you? And I think once you understand, once you identify what's your motivation for it, then it becomes a lot easier. So you can say, okay, I need to put more effort into this now because this is actually going to feed me, you know what I mean, over the next couple of months. Then, you know, put your energy there. But if it's just, I want to get into this so I can make a couple of $1 billion, you know, I also want to do this. I also want to do this. I mean, if you was to ask any number in this room, we all have multiple things that we're working on, multiple passions, multiple things that we want to take to the next level. And it's just about prioritizing, okay, what is it that is most important for me now? I have books, I have all kinds of things that I want to get done. And I just take to Nivea's point, I just take my time and I go with the passion. And then that I said, okay, I need to bring in this level of income. I need to put more focus and more energy into this right now. So identify where your priorities are at, what you need it for. When I get into my poetry and all of that, I do that because I enjoy it. I love it. But when I get into, okay, I got to figure out a way to feed my family, that comes with a different level of energy. So be sure of where you put your energy in and what you're using it for.
And also to slow, go on, Curtis.
Piggyback number 3, you're gonna continue to rock on a Jupiter again, knowing that you're jovial, you're happy, you're humorous, you have this ability. It's overflowing. So I love what Niva said, the highest excitement. Tap into that. And as you begin to follow that path, just remember the things that come with taking this horse, taking this trip. You know, once you find your highest list, okay, this is it for me. I can rock with this. Okay, well, I started talking to somebody over here and I think this might be it too. And you can hop on the other ship and you can take that to the moon too. But whatever that highest bliss, give me, you're infinite. You can do this for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then go to something else. But you always will have that joy, a level of expansion. But remember the order as you go through, because that you say you want to build current with this thing that gives you that highest excitement. That current is going to take you to sit down, do a business plan, write this thing out. What's going to bring the current I need to sustain myself? And it takes it. Then you shift to that next level, because once you find, okay, this is how I'm gonna get there. This is the feeling I get when I do this that I don't need to get paid for. But within this reality, we're gonna need to set things in order so I can generate that toward your current, so I can begin to share with the greatest heart. You know, so capacity use system.
And also with number 3s, because they have interests in so many things, because 60% of the planets are in them. So they've got a lot of energies coming into them and they're expressing so many energies at the same time. How are you slowing yourself down? Like, are you meditating? And meditation can be, you know, early on, is your meditation a visualization meditation? So are you using a guided meditation where somebody is speaking you through a meditation? Is it a meditation where you are just concentrating on your breath? Is it a mantra meditation where you're just chanting, for example, Om, or just love, or you can use any, you know, word that you want to use to bring you back to yourself? Or like the Tibetan Buddhists use a walking meditation. If you're more of a move, you know, a person who's constantly on the move, you can fill a bowl with water and do a walking meditation. And you literally walk up and down your garden or in a field, holding this water, this bowl in your hand, and being mindful and just going into that spaciousness, because the answers always come between the words, within the spaciousness. And then this can lead you on to going into periods of silence and vipassana. So there are many, many different facets, even to a meditation, that can help you get into that quiet space. And then you ask yourself, what's my joy? What do I, self, me, what's going to give me my most excitement in this, from this spaciousness, and then go out into the world in that spaciousness. But it takes a little bit of practice. So wholeness.
Tap into that one more time. I found for myself, again, as a 3, having those multiple, it being that you have multiple interests, having just as many stimulus to keep me on the path I need to be on, it helps so much. Like, again, having a visual aid, what do I want to see? Like, really putting time to meditating on that. Also having some stimulus in the ear, also having something written down as you gotta have for self. Had multiple stimulus that remind you, okay, this is why I'm gonna stay here. This is why I'll be here. And that, again, for me, continues to give me continuous energy on the path and what I'm going now.
Awesome. Also, family, I do want to highlight that, you know, I believe, first of all, very, very great insights from everyone. And just remembering, because it may be a path prone thing. Let's say, for instance, a 3 is going to be like, I got so much that I want to focus on. But as Life was saying, remember that everybody's got a lot of things that they want to focus on. So that doesn't single you out as being abnormal to what everybody else, because you could also then go, man, it seems like everybody knows what they want to do and they have their things together. That that was a product of starting to learn certain techniques, if you may, of how to understand order of magnitude. Like, what is, like Curtis is saying, what is going to be the next thing that I actually got to do, and do I feel like I want to do this? That's your order of magnitude. But don't immediately kind of like go into the vibration that you're the only one that has a lot to do and you're confused about what to do. Actually, that is a very common phenomenon with just being in the planetary system right now. There is a deluge, as we say, of information. There's lots of books, and we're coming from a culture that says that you could be anything. This is the land of opportunity, and that at times becomes a direct assault on focus, a direct assault on mastery, since all those things have a tendency to take some time to do. So, as our sister Niva was saying, know how to wind it down, because even I have a big issue with like just relaxing for a moment. Like, it's a real issue. I feel like I got something to do all the time. So I have to make sure that I'm building in like that walk in the morning that's mandatory to go on, because I know that I'm going to be in a better space once I do that. But if I just try to think my way through that, I don't feel like I'm going to be in a better space. I feel like I'm going to be late. I feel like I have better things to do at the time. I go into that whole thing. And so let's keep going with this. We have another question that is, you know, a deeper question. You know, it's going to definitely take some of the key makers, you know, and super wisdom and deep incentive knowledge. This question is from a cosmic number 6, and they're asking, how do I deal with what I think is a sexual demon from my husband, who's a number 5? Thanks. So definitely not as easy to digest as the question was to read, possibly. I also know our sister, one of our sisters here, had some deeper experiences about understanding how to love yourself more. You know, maybe she'll come into this and, you know, start talking about, you know, like sometimes when you get in a relationship, you can even feel like that you have a certain dedication that you need to make to somebody and fulfill something that they want to do. And if that is contrary to where you're at personally in your experience, just how that could overall affect you. But yeah, I'll open this up for the key makers to, you know, to say what they have to say about this.
Yeah, this is a very deep, and I, this is a very deep question. And I know a lot of people that deal with this, myself included at one point. In a lot of my traveling, something attached itself to me, and it kept coming in the form of dreams, and it kept coming in all types of different spaces. And for me, it was just like, okay, what is this? At some point, you know, when you're young, you enjoy the experience, but when you become older, you're like, okay, something is attaching itself to me. What are some meditation practices that I can do to start removing that kind of energy away from my space? What type of sage, what type of frankincense and myrrh, what type of, rhythms, tunes that I can begin to play to remove some of those spirits around me. But at the same time, what is it about me that attracted that thing to me? And what I found was it was a lot of, and this is just something I did, it was a lot of, okay, whatever spirit this is, I'm asking you to remove yourself from my space now. Like I didn't connect with the spirit, but I spoke to it in the sense of whatever you are, whatever, I need for you to remove yourself. Now it was easier for me because, eventually that spirit, I stopped having dreams, I stopped dealing with a lot of that. But it's a whole nother level if you have a spirit connected with you that is your husband or your partner that is laying in bed with you. That is a whole nother geometry. That's a whole nother system that you got to work through. But I would highly encourage this communication and communicate that. Communication is key. Sit down and allow them to know, this is what I am getting from you. This is whatever you've been a part of, it's attaching itself to me. And to really, you want to do that without causing a divorce, without causing you and your loved one to eventually part ways, but try to at least get a better understanding of what it is that is connected to him through these level of communication. And let me just stop there.
Wow, that's beautifully said. So I want to chime in on this because I have experience with this. So, I mean, being that that's your partner, and you feel that there's like a sexual distortion going on, between you and your partner, especially being manifested through your partner. You have to be very stern about that energy and not engaging with it, because here's the thing. I'll give you all an example. I'm an open book, so it doesn't matter to me. I talked about it on my YouTube channel a while back, how I had contracted an STD, right? I had contracted one. And at first I knew that this energy was already distorted, but being a human being and giving into the lower self, there it is, you go for it, right? And then you ended up getting something that manifests into something else now that's physical. So it was already spiritual, it was already a spiritual manifestation. And then now, because it went a little further, the manifestation now turns physical, where it impacts the physical body now. And so, although you may not be dealing with the physical nature of it at the moment, you now recognize that it's spiritual. Sex is spiritual regardless. And when it's distorted, everything is off balance. And so since this is a marriage, this is your husband, your partner, you have to be the one to be like, all right, look, there needs to be some kind of boundary here until we can figure this out. Maybe you all should go on a cleanse together. Maybe you should clean out your body together. Go on walks and meditate together. Especially meditation is key. Meditating together rather than doing something such as sex, because sex opens you up to all kinds of things. There are many different energies that can get to you through sex. That's how they get to people. And so you have to be mindful of that. And be stern about that. You have to find other alternatives rather than engaging in sex. There are plenty of other levels to intimacy rather than just sex. That's like a lower level thing that we feed ourselves, especially if we don't know what we're doing with it. We don't know the proper tantra and all these other different things. If you don't know about it, then it's like you can open yourself to all kinds of things. So just be mindful. Yeah. Wholeness.
Wholeness. I'm gonna kick this to Sister Wigeby and just give her alley-oop, because again, it's all dealing with the womb, and then it's really slowing it down, because we know that this is important. Like this is a part of sex. Sex is 6. I got an echo. I'm here. Good? All right, cool. This is important. This is your body. This is your temple. This is your vessel. This is you here. And really being selfish in the space, that being aware, as the observer, you can see like what's going on with your partner, and it's your partner because you know his orientation of how he came to how he is right now, especially if you have great communication. And being in the world where it's so perverted, like it's hard for you to even, let's say, wear like something small, like for the ladies wearing something, something to work out in without getting the perception that you want it, or because you look like a sex icon. And getting to your husband to nullify that energy and those programs that are continually reverberating within this consciousness, that you may be doing something small, like, I don't know, whatever. And he sees you as this space, and then you may not want to say no, because sometimes that may lead to some type of friction. But really love yourself enough to say, babe, let's sit down and talk about this. This is how I'm feeling right now. And I need a break. I need a break. And my womb, I'm going into this thing where I'm going through, I know we be hit on the mother chrome, the mating, and going through these processes, and get him to understand that you are a supreme being. You're more than just this. And like Sister said, it's the intimacy. It's so much like you can do for intimacy. I got a tip from a tribe member a couple of years back about just breathing together in the space and exploring the tantric practices of breathing together. It's so intimate when you can inhale, they exhale. And this dives into quite a bit, but I'm bounce fast to think this is the witch because it's directly tied to the womb and Venus.
So in terms of the numbers, that there's one thing that happens with a number 6 marrying a number 5. In those terms, like, this relationship may not be a good fit. But so for me, like, in any relationship, you sort of have to know your boundaries, and start to work on yourself. So the number one thing is to work on the self, and your relationship, you come together after you hold yourself. So, many times, women don't take care of the different aspects of themselves, the different parts of who they are. So, and then you try to come together in a relationship, it just doesn't work. And, when we first start to be in love with someone, you are basically looking in the mirror, and you're only looking at the, the good parts, excuse me, with the word good. However, once, you really get to have to deal with the person on a daily basis, then, hey, all sorts of things, that's just the nature of relationship. And this is why it's important to work on the self. And, it's important for a woman, personally to practice self-care, self-cultivation. In terms of sex itself, it's an energy. Like knowing what your body can do. Imagine like if you're trying to balance, within an imbalanced situation, and really the first imbalance is you. To me, it's a reflection of self. So you're in the relationship that that's the state that you're in. So this is why you need to take care of you first, understanding like where you are, what is it that to be a 6, what is it that you would need from a relationship, instead of, I'll give you one example for me, and then I'm definitely not a 6, but when I first, when my marriage started to have issues, I wanted to do marriage counseling, and I went to the counselor, and my husband was like, no. And we went to counseling. Well, he didn't go to counseling. So I went to the counselor, and the counselor told me, hey, it's not about him. It's about you. So you need to do counseling yourself first. And it was really, really, once I started to do counseling myself, I didn't need him. So, when to walk away. Sometimes we're like forcing relationships and have to be in relationships when the first relationship is with the self. I had to stop and realize, I didn't really want him to go to counseling. I wanted to go to counseling. Instead of looking at your partner, really start looking at yourself. And, these attachments or demons, or, they're actually aspects, again, of yourself. So you know, if you're having a dream that's especially one dream that's following you, you know, sometimes you might need to stop and ask that dream, you know, the question, instead of running away from that demon. Um, you know, hate to give this example because he's gonna kill me. With my cousin, you know, he has a succubus dream, and then this relationship is like that. He's always fighting with it, and you know, and I'm like, wait, why don't you, you know, ask her, you know, the questions? I still like, hey, like, you know, let's talk instead of fight, and you know, because if you're looking in the mirror, if you're looking at an aspect of yourself that is hidden, that is, you know, suppressed even. You know, our whole, you know, our sexuality is suppressed. You know, connecting your physicality with your spirituality. You know, some of us have no idea how to do that. You know, especially when it comes to women of certain age, you give your sexuality to your children and be like, oh, you know, I'm a mother now, so forget about, you know, me being sexy. You give your, you know, when you're young, you're ashamed because you're like, oh, you know, I'm too young, I need to be innocent. So you know, we don't teach our children what it is to be, you know, to be a sexual being, because guess what? They start to have orgasm as children. And but because we don't teach them what this is, by the time they get into their, you know, I mean, I know that's even a question beyond, but by the time they get into their teenage year, other things has already, you know, clouded their mind, because we don't teach them what real sexuality is. You know, how the body is energy, and it actually moves, and you can feel all of this throughout your whole system. You know, it's a relationship with your different physicalities, with your different bodies, and you can feel it, and you know, your being is sexuality. So any of these things, in terms of like, you know, having a certain dream, and your, you know, your subconscious is revealing itself. So you know, delving deeper, asking the question, and maybe even, you know, having that talk with the succubus is, you know, it would be where I would head with it. Wholeness.
And I believe that this is such a tough question. You can go ahead and come in, Paige, but this is such a tough question, but answered so beautifully well. I just wanted to at least, you know, breathe for a moment and give, you know, honor and respect and awareness to what our sister is saying directly, because I see that as such a powerful solution. Because when you're going at somebody else, especially when you're talking about something like this, it's not that the person said, hey, my husband keeps using my toothbrush as a number 9, is this ever going to end? They said specifically, I feel like that I'm having this experience with this person, and that's something that we have to respect, even as key makers. That it's not like you're saying, well, we're getting into arguments. You're saying, I'm dealing with something sexual that actually is a little bit more than I feel comfortable with. And what the sister is saying is, now, even to prepare yourself properly, to even be able to command that situation into what you want it to be, even if that means that you need to move on, you need to be prepared physically, spiritually, and mentally to do that. So at this stage, having a conversation with, I mean, I just don't see it logical to have a conversation with someone who's, let's say, over sexually stimulated, about sitting down and let's breathe this out and let's meditate this. I don't think logically that that would be where the being would be. But I for sure could say that at times, if we're entering into these kind of relationships and we haven't moved on, it means that we need to start infusing ourselves directly with the things that are going to allow us to get to that aspect of awareness and self and respect of self, that's going to bring that kind of conclusion. So if you don't feel like, as the sister is saying, like right now, that you can even walk away from something like this, it means that it's possibly you directly that needs to work on your own counseling, your own cleansing, the things that you're going to need to do to fortify yourself properly to make a decision that you may have not made yet. You want to go ahead and tie that in for Sister Paige?
Yes. I just want to wrap it up on my end. But like Sister Déesse was saying, like, you know, the 6 energy, she built up on this, like, you know, man, y'all gonna have to go back and listen to this. But she was talking about boundaries. And 6s, y'all are so beautiful. Beautiful. People will take advantage of your beauty. You gotta have boundaries. 6 is sex. And you know, we just built on this in the meditations this week. 6 is sex. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have boundaries with yourself. And others will begin to see that, you know, you're protecting your beauty. I want to protect your beauty too. That's key. So You know, that's what I got to say on that, you know, wholeness.
I want to add one more layer on that, just for the observation. Right now, in the times that we in, a lot of people are in the house, so they're not getting a chance to express themselves as they usually would. Let's say they go to work out, go to get this physical energy exerted, and now we're in a space where this is what we do now. And but you again, like, set them boundaries. Like, let's do this instead. Let's do this instead. And you can be just excited about this other physical expression than this one, and finding that level of it. But just for the transparency of observation of what times that we're in this particular moment, and being in the house. Wholeness.
And
I wanted to, oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Please go, Joy.
I love this. All right, we're gonna close out with this one. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I think that this is a really wonderful way for us to use the archetypes of the numbers, because we can view ourselves. It begins to help us open up and have these relationships with ourselves, which we were talking about how, you know, we're not taught that. We're taught we're supposed to go immediately in relationship with other people. You know, we have to learn how to relate to ourselves. And that's what all of us are coming into now, which is so lovely. And these numbers, especially for me, have been a very helpful lens to begin to know myself better, to come up against my own edges, my own dark sides, and other people in relationship with that. And so, especially with these numbers, I know we talked about this when we all came into the numbers. Everybody was instantly scrutinizing their relationships and their friendships and thinking, I've got to get rid of this person, I've got to, you know, and as we sort of matured and opened up into the space of the allowing to know that we are all of the numbers, we are all of these archetypes inside of us. And so it begins, I think, to give us an additional perspective on our relationships, and some spaces to do the real work to find out, you know, are we going to be able to learn and grow and expand from this, or maybe this combination isn't the right thing for both of us, you know, the most balanced space for us to be. And so I'm thinking about this 5, right, that we've been talking about. We've been talking about it from the 6 asking the question. And we had a couple of questions earlier last week and this week too, from Mercury, from number 5s, who, you know, have these questions around communication. And we know Mercury is the planet of communication, right? So I'm just thinking around this from a communication piece too, with our 5, is that it is, you know, to think about this perspective is, what is the communication from the 5, and how does that fit into, you know, the bigger picture of all of this, and giving you both in your relationship, you know, a construct to work from that maybe can be a little more less inflammatory, if you will, or, you know, to take a little bit of a step back from something which is so you know, tender and deep and intimate, and for our 6s, very, very, you know, tender and hard spaces to be in, vulnerable spaces to be in. So that's a wonderful question. And thank you for your vulnerability and allowing us all to deepen into that.
Absolutely. And
And
just closing, I know, because we got some questions still here, and the clock is ticking. I know y'all gonna get in, but y'all got to go rapid fire now. It's 15 seconds. I also let you come in, sister, because I definitely want us to keep flowing with this. And I believe obviously what is shared is very unique and very important to all of us. And I do want to also add is just personally as an additional layer. That's why I want to let you go, sister, because I have an additional layer too. Just as an additional layer, it's us also being aware that how we see someone doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong. It's interesting that, we would even, if we could say, well, yeah, this is a sex demon, but maybe this is just not the being that you're supposed to be with, because maybe that person can go and be with somebody else, and then they will actually have a great time with the whole thing, and then it's just you personally saying, this is not where I'm at energetically. So I noticed that can be also a very infusing, powerful point to come back into a level of maturity, especially if the person's still around, there's something there that's tying it all in. If there's no kids or anything involved, then maybe you need to pack the bags already. But if there's something there much more deeper, this is the time, instead of just staying stagnant with what's happening, to bring in that next level of awareness into a relationship where it's actually, where two are actually comfortable in actually stating, this is not how I am, this is not how you are, this is where we actually are differing, and now we got to really be in control of deciding what we're going to do now about that. Because sometimes people can pretend that they like something just to please another person, and that person never knows that they don't like it because they haven't actually stated their boundaries. And then these stating what you really are about gives that person now that extra, well, I know that they don't like this, and it could ease up and allow a situation to move on to what it needs to become in the first place. So I did wanted to, just bring light to that how we see other things. Sometimes it could be because it could be something else. You could say this person is too aggressive for me. They want to talk all the time. They argue, while somebody else could say, I need somebody that's really going to speak for us and where we're really at, and then let me handle what's back here. So this is, as Joy was saying, why this becomes so dynamic when you're looking at how the numbers work together versus how they may possibly be working against each other in certain levels of the unity code. So yeah, if you want to go ahead, Gail. Thank you.
Wholeness. I was just going to add that, yeah, we don't have a perspective on if they are on the same page, if they're looking at, like, if something happened and they're both like, what is that? Or if it's just the one person looking and saying that this is a problem for me. But I just also want to add quickly that the question was posed in the context of marriage. And so there are other layers to that as far as what the expectations are, and just that paradigm in the reality. And so I wanted to offer just a thought that we still, even in marriages, we're sovereign beings, and that we have, I don't want to just say a right, but I want to say it's important to acknowledge that. I think Wigeby was tapping into that as far as, who we are and cleaning up that energy, as an individual in the relationship, and taking ownership of that in a powerful way to determine if this is for me, if this is something that I can detach from. Wholeness.
Beautiful. Wholeness. We are now activating rapid fire. It is now fully activated. This is the time where if anyone does have anything to say, they actually are encouraged to compress it within 15 seconds. We have about 6 to 7 questions, about 6 questions, right? So we can get through that. We always do. I don't see any more questions coming in. That's great. Also, if you're in the chat, you don't feel so impelled to ask a question. If you have, I want to ask a question. You can also enjoy observing and listening, and I'm sure maybe your question will be asked. So here it is. So rapid fire is activated, and this next question is, the question is, I'm always creating things. It's from a number 4. Okay, number 4 is saying I'm always creating things, and just to find, as soon as I'm finished, I have to break it all down and start back over again. Will this cycle ever end? Is it an inevitable process of growth? This is the number 4. You got something for that?
I'm going to answer no, because I work very closely with a number 4, and no, ever, ever, ever.
You're going to say ever for 15 more seconds. Hold on.
Ever.
I can concur as a number 4 that is the case. And it doesn't seem to be anything that I control. Sometimes I break my things down myself. Many times it is external things that break it down. And this is one of the things that I was actually quite, this made me feel good when I read it in the book, because I was like, oh my gosh. You mean, yes, this is actually a track that I live and breathe and thrive in change, as a matter of fact. So learning to accept and thrive in change, I think, is key as a 4.
Yeah, as a number 4, I'm a 4 as well. I agree. It's hard. We're perfectionists, so we like to see something, and we always see the mistakes. We always say, man, I could have done this better. I could have done this so much more better. And in fact, I am going to do it better after it's been released. And we just continue to just lock ourselves into this loop of confusion, man, that everybody else is like, this is perfect. So you just have to learn as a 4 to let it go. Like you have to, you complete it, you let it go and start working on something different.
Because the karmic lessons for number 4 is really impatient, you know, they have to learn about impatience and slowing down. So how do we slow down? Breathing. Just connect to your breath. That is the only thing. 15 seconds.
Beautiful family. Okay, so we're gonna keep it going. So this next question is it's from an 8. How do you manage your energy on those days when your levels and your sense of purpose seem less present? Even when you've done your breathing and exercise, your meditation, like just not feeling it. How do we get through that, key makers? This is from a number 8.
Put your happy song on, whatever gets your feet shaking and your booty shaking. Put the shower on cold all the way. Maybe fill up some buckets the night before and put them out there. Douse yourself. Change your state. You know what I mean? And yeah, keep it moving.
Also,
I like that. Get some physical stimulus on you.
also, to help remember when you did it. Like remember those times in your past when you came across the finish line, when you made that there perfect time, and that time when you did it. So have that fresh in your consciousness. So when you get that moment, okay, no, hold on, let me breathe into this. Use some of those moments to fuel you.
I would add as an 8, getting grounded. And also one thing I do is to try to focus on something that I could accomplish, because the 8 is such a long standing, slow moving energy that, you know, over time that can just feel really heavy and long. And sometimes you just need a easy win, something. And so just, you know, accomplishing one small task, something that can give you a little pop and then help you, you know, refocus and readjust is a suggestion.
And the karmic lesson for number 8 is forgiveness. And where does the forgiveness start? First with self. So even using something like the Ho'oponopo, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, I'm sorry. And just keep saying that. Wholeness.
Let's keep moving through it. So this next question is a number 3 asking, can smoking marijuana every day prohibit full activation and total awareness? That's some input on that. I would just say absolutely it can. If you are lightweight, basically there is levels to the whole thing, and some people cannot do what other people do. Marijuana has become quite a recreational substances these days, and so it does really. I mean, if you observe the culture in itself and you realize the difference between an OG versus somebody who is definitely still in paranoia zone, it's a medicine in itself. As we talked about before, that there are many medicines that are ascribed specifically to tribes that they have. Like we talked about the, oh man, with the IU, yeah, the IU leaf, which is what you call the cocoa leaf, being very useful in the pre-Columbian tribes as far as them using that as a form of stable vitamins, all sorts of things to assist them with their consciousness. But then somebody else coming from another culture and trying to use that, and then that kind of throwing them into a disarray. We even have things like yerba mate being so popular in certain countries, especially Peru and places like that. So we have these herbs that specific cultures have been using for thousands of years to connect them deeper into who they are. And it does really mean, because of your chemistry, if you try to go in and do something that you just see others doing, you may not get the same experience. And marijuana is strong enough to impair a full activation and total awareness if you don't know what you're doing. And that's just my 15-second take on that.
Marijuana also, you know, it opens you up, right? I mean, it is, it's used somewhat as an entheogen, right? Which does get us in touch with nature and its, you know, feminine aspects of the high, right? That the THC gives us in cannabis. So absolutely, I think that it can impact your activation. It changes your mood. You know, it can, and as any plant, I think it should be approached with respect. And we do have a lot of medicines in this plant too. So, and a lot of people need it for pain relief and all sorts of things. THC, we have CBD, we have a lot of phytonutrients coming out from marijuana that is not THC. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here when we talk about cannabis. I think if we're talking about sort of changing consciousness and the plants that we use for that, you do need to approach it with respect and understand that it is something an alterant, right? It's an alterant for you. So is it going to be an accelerant? Is it a depressant? Is it an activator? That's between you and the plant, right?
Also, I just wanted to add my little 15 seconds. Smoking anything every day, we're talking about the lungs. Those work all day, all the time. Like, you know, and we feel that. I mean, our other ones do too, but we feel that, the lungs. So smoking anything every day can impair you, you know, and also, you know, it depends on what you're doing also with your marijuana, right? If you're not creating anything every day, you know, or when you're ingesting it, then you're also doing yourself a disservice as a 3 because you're success driven. You know, you have to get things moving. And so if you are ingesting it and you're not creating something, then you're doing something to a disservice to your path. And if you're doing it every day smoking, you're also doing a disservice to your lungs.
And also a number 3 is, sorry, Sevan. Also a number 3 is the chakra, which is here, which is related to the element of air. So like Sister Paige just said, it's related to the lungs. And so you've got to energize that air element in you, which is the Vata energy in Ayurveda. So what are you doing to increase, you know, improve the Vata with you? And that is the heating herbs and things like ginger, having a lot of fruit, having a lot of turmeric in your diet. That is going to help to energize the air element. And the beej, the sound for the air element is hum. And just, you know, saying the sound hum, hum, because you've got to get to the center of that chakra. Wholeness.
y'all, we have about 6 questions, so let's go. Let's get it. Here we go again. The next question is from a 1. Okay, my partner's a 6, and it's coming into their balance. I love the way you're putting that. That is very nice. It's coming into their balance and personal power. A changing of the guard is here. Do I relinquish control and leadership and allow her divine feminine to pilot the ship? Like, what should I be doing here?
Co-pilots.
Boy, y'all just
Yeah, oh yeah, we know there's the question. Yeah.
Okay, well, just off the get-go, just off the get-go, a 1 and a 6 is not the ideal partnership, just an FYI, in terms of like still going back to the 6. And, you know, the 6 really needs to be careful or be mindful, excuse me, not careful. Just be mindful of like what kind of relationships you're getting into. Because I understand that the Venus energy is very sexy, very like, you know, we everybody wants to have a relationship with a Venus. So you have to discern, you know, who it is that you're getting involved with. You don't need to get involved with everybody, you know. So just like, you know, be mindful of your own energy. Yes, everybody wants you. So, you know, a 1 and a 6 is, you know, you just don't mix, you know, idealistically, you know, even both the men and the women don't work. So just be mindful of what kind of relationship you're getting into with whatever number.
Yeah, and I guess the clearer way to say it is also that this is going to be a challenge. I like that because some people love challenges. So but it's good to know in these numbers that it does tell you which numbers are going to be more of a challenge for you versus what's going to pair up properly. And I mean, just pair up. I won't even say properly, but just pairs up, just snaps together. And again, some are exploring more about who they are through others. So when you meet someone with that's on a certain path, you can inherit certain traits that ultimately will strengthen who you overall become as a universal being. So this could be an intention of yours. Just speaking directly to it, because this is number 1 saying that this is a number 6 that they have in this relationship, and this 6 is budding, is growing, and is stepping into their transformation. And what I would say is that since you know so much about this, I'm not sure how much your partner is aware of this ideology and these kind of things. It's a great opportunity to actually support that being, since the number 1 does have that ability, but basically to know more about it and to actually be their support through the process of what they're going through. It's not like that we're hearing here that there's necessarily a problem here, even though the numbers may say that, hey, there's going to be a challenge here. But if you're in there with it and you see her going through her power, this could also be what you've been really also saying as a number 1, that, hey, you know, you need to step up, you need to get into the lead. And then you start seeing the being do that, then now you already got this. So you can afford to actually render a spot for them to come into the awareness of who they truly are. So that's one thing that I'll add to that.
And to also reverse it. Oh, okay, sorry, Nita.
Sorry.
To reverse it with. Oops. Go ahead. Go on. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, because I just realized that I thought it was a 6, but to reverse it, I think the 1 is just like, with the outshining, is probably looking at what they want to be, that in that aspect of looking at self, reflecting. Go ahead, Niva.
Yeah, so with the number 6s, what happens is when the female's hormonal cycle stops and she enters menopause and the crone stage of her cycle, she actually tends to get more masculine energies. Whereas with the men, when they go through their male menopauses as number 6s, they become more feminine in their cycles. So marrying a number 6, an older number 6 will also always dominate the relationship later on in life, because she will take on the role of the masculine. So that's quite interesting.
Like that. Now I got to rethinking everything. Now everybody's redoing their calculations. Like, whoa, wait a minute. When did I got to listen to that later on? We're gonna keep going, try, because we're through. Keymakers and try. We're doing this. I mean, I love the way that we're smoothing into these questions. It's such an amazing balance. Also, giving thanks to the Keymakers today, for sharing their space-time knowledge, wisdom, connection with everyone here in the tribe, and getting through these questions that I know all of us have variants of these questions. Tough stuff at times, but when we're handling it together, it allows us to really see so much more clarity, especially when we're going in a 360 degree, or in this case, we have the 9. 3 plus 6 is still 9, but we have that 9 wrapping around things to see all the points of views, and we of course respect and love each point of view that we're getting today. This next question is as a 4. I think I have a perfectionist problem. It's an impedance to me starting a business. I want things to set up to be done efficiently and proficiently, so I feel stagnant. How can I unlock and move past this aesthetic, which is, what it's called? It's the aesthetic.
Yeah, as a number 4, I mean, we just answered that last time. I mean, you just have to do it. That is the perfectionist, because we have infinite experiences, ideas, and when we look at things, we want it to come out perfect, and it is never going to be perfect for you as a number 4. So do it. Make sure you have some guides, some mentors around you, your partners that can allow you to see it and says, okay, let it go. My wife have to tell me all the time, okay, it's done, let it go. And as a number 4, I still don't want to listen.
As a 4, I actually had to mathematically calculate how to let it go. And serious, it was a tough one for me. And I got through this by literally realizing that the phi, like phi and pi, what that really is actually a slight imperfection. And this imperfection is actually creating the uniqueness. And it's just like why we spiral, not go in circles. That wobble actually creates that unique aspect and that variable of the wave. And so what I started realizing is that how could I ever be perfect in a quote unquote imperfect world unless I realized that it was perfectly the way that it should be. Now I know that that's a stretch, but it did actually solve the riddle, because now when I work to bring it as close to perfection as possible, and then I leave it alone, because I realize that I'm still dealing with a real mathematical equation, something that's greater than my intellect of how it was all constructed to literally be slightly imperfect, so that we get all these variables. That's really my 15 seconds into that, and why I now respect and have come to terms with the slight imperfections of things once they get complete. And how
I'll also jump and say that something that helps me to keep moving as a 4 is to have a deadline, or I like to call them live lines, to set a timeline around your project. And that way, I can work and work and work and work. And then, like Sevan said, just decide to leave it, it's done. So that's been helpful for me. And so I offer that to our 4s out there.
We're going to keep moving through this. I love the way this is happening. We have 4 more questions, and this question is from a psychic number 2. And they're saying, does the body really need a lot of sleep? Also, how do we find solace with beings around us out of our control that are suffering, such as animals and other people. This is a 2, very empathic path.
As a 2, I've found sleep, sleep's different for everybody, but it's important to find yourself that you're winding down before you go to sleep so that you can regenerate throughout the sleep process and wake up regenerated. So that kind of, I feel, answers that. You might be naturally wired to not be having that much sleep, but just how you feel in the body. Are you hydrated? Are you clear? Are you being able to operate at that level that feels good for you? And are you meditating a lot? All of these things you might be I don't sleep very much, but I meditate 5 hours a day, so it's different. And as for the sensitivity aspect, it takes great appreciation, and the word I've found is gumption. It takes great gumption to live in this earthly plane and to feel deeply all life, but realize the life that you have and the life that you live is all that you can control. And if you're bringing that love and that honor and supporting those life forms around you and sharing that love, like love the one you're with, even if it's a little bug that crosses your path during the day, or a dog, that all of these things that are happening to other animals, but just sharing that energy with the place that you can share it with, that's really all that you can do, and come into that balance within yourself, because there's infinity amount of pain and sorrow out there. But the key for you is to rise above that and to have that compassion and that stable foundation within yourself, that you can continue to bring that love out within yourself in the way that you can control wholeness.
I wanted to add about sleep, and number 2s is that this number is a moon number, right? And so I know myself as a 4, which is a north node of the moon, my sleep pattern very much changes depending on the moon phase that we're in. So if you are having some sleeping, what you're viewing as a disruption, you may want to take a look at the phases of the moon and notice if there's any correlations for you, and to prepare yourself every month maybe for this dynamic, because I do believe everybody is a little different. It's depending on what you're doing each day. And again, just to tie into what Alistair said about the sensitivity and this moon, this very intuitive space, I think just to recognize that you are so sensitive and intuitive, and in this way, to give thanks, to give thanks for that. That's a wonderful ability, to have this sensitivity and being in tune to nature and all of its wonderful gifts. And so to be thankful for that gift, and then for you to give thanks to all of these wonderful creatures and beings around that support us here.
Beautiful. We got 3 more questions, and they're not going to get easier. Finish strong. Finish strong. Let's see what happens if you could. Yeah, I looked at the question. I was like, man, I can't ignore the question, but these are deep. So here we go. From a 4, wholeness. Having scoliosis. I've experienced. Okay, so I have scoliosis. I've experienced concern with being able to climb the ladder of lights, spine, astral spine, chakras, Rahu being bodiless. Can you give me some metaphysical insight and assistance on this? We're in rapid fire, Keymakers. What you got?
And so, as we know, the body is just the physical. Rahu is the infinite in the spiritual. Like, so yes, they have the phenomenon when the arm gets cut off, you still feel it there, because again, that's only a part of the ship. Your real vessel is internal, and how you amplify that is going within. One of those ways we go within is in the meditation, within the breathing, within different visualization of you going through these chakra centers to actually lift the weight, Rahu, as you carry this thing, because you got the juice to do it. So I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna kick it over to the next person.
That's good right there, brother. Like, I really like what you brought right there, because it's important to realize, especially with this path, that a lot is done on the spiritual plane. And I've actually been put in situations in my life directly where I cannot use my physical just so that I would unlock those abilities. And I kid you not, like, if I'm not sitting down and not put into a situation where I gotta be still for whatever reason, I don't get much accomplished because I'm headless on the whole thing. And so truly what we sometimes see as our impediment is actually our gift, especially when we learn the subset of the creation that we are, and just how much power you have that you can project because you don't have so much of an allocation of energy into consecrated into the physical space. That's what I would like to add to that.
Yeah, and I'll say as a 4, remember that one of our gifts is building foundations. As much as we are in the moon and in the spirit, we do have a gift for building that square. For seeing all of the sides and bringing stability. And so, we need that balance between building that foundation, like Sevan said, just staying still. We have to be able to do that in order to get anything done. And so just, your grounding practices, and as you weave up, this ladder of lights, it is your destiny, right? There is ways to do it. You will get there in divine timing. And as a 4, just make sure you're grounded, I would say. And I love that electromagnetic cleanse. Imagine your rainbow, right? That rainbow reaching up to the sky every time, and you'll get there.
And as for the scoliosis, like having worked with some people that have had, I guess, depending on the severity of the scoliosis, like you've always got range to work back into bringing that spine into alignment, and just know that within yourself that you do have the power to kind of shift that back into alignment, little by little, little by little, little by little. And there's so many cases of people being able to do this, whether it's through supported massage therapy and seeing powerful Chinese healers, or going, and Joe Dispenza talks a lot about actually refusing and rebuilding segments of his spine that were shattered. So your ability to metaphysically and physically heal yourself by doing the work, and kind of find that practice that works for you, if that means getting on the yoga mat, if that means building out a system and a structure of movement that might take you an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, and being mindful throughout the day of your movements, but being able to do that and then have meditation on top of that, that's focusing on that and connecting in with the metaphysical. You've incarnated into this life with this as a lesson that you can resolve and learn from, and it's an incredible resource. Like whatever cards that we're dealt, we've been given because we've got the equal measure to overcome that and to build that on our foundation, which is a part of your lateral light. So wholeness, and you got this.
One more thing I want to add is if you go onto Secret Energy page, you go to wellness, the wellness guide, and tap into the bones element, a tab in that. There's some also things that you can dial into directly if you haven't already, to give you a little bit more nourishment within those elements in your body that you need to sustain yourself.
Beautiful. All right. So we cruising through this. I know that everyone here that's had their question answered, like it's a delight, even for me personally, to hear the answers to these questions. I even have some stuff to go and apply when I get off the line. I want to say thanks also to everyone that has joined in, and as Joy said, been very open at this stage and getting solutions, because it's also allowing us all to bring ourselves into that same alignment. 2 more questions only. One question here again. A lot of number 4s out today. Number 4s out today. Hey, what's good? The 4 is asking, I love to be alone. It's hard to be around others and to work with them in relationships, etc. What's the best way around this? I will chime in for 15 seconds, and I'll say that from a 4, just in my experience, I won't say I don't like to be around others. I would just say that I need my personal time, and I breathe in and I breathe out. So once I'm getting my personal time, I really get to a point where I'm like, okay, where is everybody at? I need to actually get out there and connect. And then if I'm like overstimulated out there, then I really feel that I need to draw back into myself, and I need to just get everything on point with me. And so I would look for that it may not be that all the time that you don't want to be around other people. It may just be that you're constantly in a situation where people are around and you're not necessarily getting that break and that me time that makes you want to go back out and actually distribute what you have. That's my insight on that.
I agree with that 100%. And I also will add that I think it's important who you have around you. As 4s, I know I speak for myself. I'm private as much as I I'm comfortable sort of in a speaking and education capacity, but from a personal standpoint, I'm pretty private, and keep a few folks around me in my center space where they sort of understand these dynamics and can work with me. So I think that in addition to finding your personal space, which is very, very important, is to feel comfortable with the people around you. Wholeness.
All right, y'all ready for that grand finale? Y'all look like it. I'm telling you, you're dealing with the 6-hour guy. Like, we're gonna break the Guinness Book of World Records. Let's pipe it up. Here we go. Finish strong. We got one more question. Giving thanks to everyone that's out there, or as we say, in there, because that's where it's all happening at. It's from a psychic number 2, 19 years old. Man, that was the day. That was so fresh. Anyway. 19 years old. I have a strong desire to learn, create, and share in many domains. What would be some advice to the younger tribe to really begin in their path?
Oh, okay. I'll speak on this. I'm gonna try to do 15 seconds. You on your path at 19. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Like, that's just really what I gotta say. I didn't start that early. I probably started at like what, 21, 22. And man, it was difficult. It was like, wow, I'm just now coming into adulthood, all this temptation. And then I got all this truth here too. What do I do? And so I dipped and dabbed in a little of both. But the repercussions were a lot stronger because I did know the truth. And so because you know truth now, it's going to be so much more beneficial for you to just stay in alignment with that, because you'll begin to put the pieces together and unlock so many different things and become so much wise, once you step further into adulthood way earlier. You don't have to wait till you're 40 and 50, like you can get it in your 20s. You can get it in your 20s and let the path make the way for you. You know what I mean? And open yourself up to so many different possibilities. So just stay focused. You're only 19. You're only 19. Like, spirituality will keep teaching you. It's never going to stop. So just keep answering your call and keep going with this. You know what I mean? And, you're going to have your temptations. You're going to have all these different things because you're just now stepping into adulthood. But I'm telling you, if you remain focused and you remain grounded, you'll get to wherever you want to go in life.
I would say definitely, because you're the moon and that is connected to the Ida, which is the Nadi. So really concentrate. If anything, start with the best, which is concentrate on your breath work. If you can find some sort of course on Swara Yoga, which is the art of nostril breathing, because breath work isn't just through the mouth. The most powerful breath work is through your nostril breath, so that you can control your brain, your conscious, your subconscious, your superconscious. And if you can start that at 19 and become a master of that, wow, like, salute. Honest.
I would add judgment. Sometimes at 19, that's such an early stage for you to blossom outward. And when you start looking at your peers, you're saying, okay, no one else is on my level. And you already start this judgment, and I am in this space and everybody else is in that space. And I think in that stage, you have to, one, I don't want to say just hang around old heads, hang around the dinosaurs. It's not that, but more so what Sister Giva is saying is begin to master something, while at the same time, try not to judge others and allow everybody around you to just kind of come into themselves, and allow yourself to be like a guide to help others. But that judgment piece, because at 19, you want to point so much further at people, but just allow people to be in that space as you connected with yourself, as you came into the truth.
Oh, Ness. All right, so I'm gonna dive in because I get excited, especially when talking to the youth about, tapping into the spaces. So you're 19. That's amazing. I'm not gonna top it at that. But you have so many tools and resources that you have right now. Like you have a whole tribe that has been germinating and growing and building these pillars. So you can stand up under. You're on the pillow right now, most likely. You probably don't have a steady job that you have to work at. You might be under grandma or mom and daddy's house. So you don't have these strange things pulling at you, and you're not so entangled with so many things that you can't chop off that disappease you from flying. Right now, you can fly and you're 19. So that's 10, you're 1, you're a trailblazer. Like right now in this moment, and the 2. So you got all of these right here with you. So breathe. And I'm gonna breathe one time with you because we doing this for you, And so as we continue to build, join us. Now we about to launch the geo chat, connect with some of the dinosaurs, as Brad was saying, like some of the oldest who are pouring in, because we all will pour into you. And then some, and then you get the opportunity at this age, or let's say 21, 22, as you begin to master this thing, to pour into so many. Like you, a trailblazer of your generation right now. Like you have a great power becomes great responsibility. So right now, put on your big boy hat, big girl hat, and let's do it. Reflecting to you. Oh.
This question reminds me too of when we get new members into the tribe chat, and folks come in and so excited and want to know what to do next. I've done this and I've done that. What should I do next? And there's all this excitement. And I think myself, I know, and others, I think, who we've been, in the space for a while. And I think, the advice is take a breath, right? Take a breath. We found each other. I mean, that's a huge part of the work right there, right? Is just finding the folks around who can support you. So we're here, we're together. This is not, there's not an end to this. We just keep going, we keep unfolding, we keep expanding. And the really primary thing is to have fun, right? Is we want to have fun here. Our journeys, there are going to be challenges along the way, of course, but ultimately we want to have fun with it. And I can say, as an elder here to this 19-year-old, that gosh, I want to say most of that stuff I learned when I was 19, I tended to unlearn it anyway. So there's a lot to go through and evolve, and just have fun with it. And we're happy that you're here with us. We're learning as much from you as you are learning from us. So wholeness.
So I wanted to say about the 2, especially I'm close with the 2, is to be patient with yourself, and especially at the 19, to learn, because the 2 has a dual nature, and you're very sensitive and autistic. So just start to learn, and when you do change, learn that part. So when your nature change, so, and don't be afraid of your dual nature. So that's what I would say. And because what happens, even though now you need a teacher and guidance, but in your later age, you'll be the teacher and the guide. So, enjoy, actually.
Absolutely. And you're also a giver. So I think there's a movie called The Giver. It's one of my favorite films. It's just the person that has the responsibility of transferring something to everybody else that they need. And just, carrying that also into your space, remembering as being young that, read everything about your path. That's really the advice that everyone is giving here, since the knowledge is available. Like, I wish I had a manual on life when I first started. And now that we have enealogy, Jordish numerology, etc., it does allow you to know a very concise aspect of self, your diet, as Niva has been mentioning, and everyone here has been giving great pointers about the specifics of how to look into you. So it isn't like an elephant gun where it's like, well, start off with this type of thing and do this, and this is what worked for me. That's the beauty of enealogy, and what we have here is that it becomes very specific to you. And when you learn the most that you can about yourself, then you can assist as many beings as possible. I always say the most perfect form of education would be first for the person to learn about themselves, and then for the person to learn how to communicate with others through this that has been developed and put here by our ancestors for thousands and thousands of years, a countless amount of time. So we're at the top of the hour almost. It's 11:56. And it would be most excellent, however, to adjourn from this space with the honoring. I'm sure our sister Niva can take us into a delightful honoring and everything that's happened also today. Like, it's been a continuum. We took a little break this morning after our celebration. We've just come off a worldwide meditation. And wow, we met so many new souls. We saw some familiar faces. And for me, it was again such a amazing experience to come in at a time, because I can tell you, like 4 weeks ago, it was something shady was going on with the energy. It just felt off. And to get that transmission to say, well, that's why y'all go in and you balance it out, and then to come in and to get so much support, to be able to even use these technologies in this way for everyone who will visit these videos in the future also, because this is, we didn't just sit there and meditate so somebody feels like when they come back to that video they're just doing that, even though that's more than enough. There was a lot of information and connection that was developed there. And so for years to come, I'm sure, as long as we have these kind of technology and this platform, people will be growing from this knowledge and wisdom. So with that being said, I guess our sister Niva could come in and actually send us all on our way to continuously connect into the spirals of our hearts, meaning at the center of self, realizing that that's where we all are. We're there, we're understanding, and we're standing up erect in many ways with the curve going around us. And that's giving us the ability to create everything. So there we are. Thank you so much.
Wholeness. So just gently close your eyelids and just take in this transmission tribe and family and everybody online. And I call forward the great divine presence to invoke into dynamic action the many streams of universal light and all the higher intelligences responsible for its direction on this solar day, Sunday. And may we all together now join together as one luminous force field of transformation on this special day to empower this planetary service activity to self and to others as our reflections. I call upon all our angels to fill our consciousness here with a mighty flow of sacred fire, fire of Sunday, and to send this cleansing fire deep into every single atomic structure of our beingness, initiating a meticulous purge of anything that is discordant within the energies of today, anything that is imbalanced, to simply surrender within our body systems. And let this light saturate the land that we're living on, the animals we're living with and co-creating with the plants, the atmosphere, the elements, and all the bodies of water in and around whichever country you're living in, with constant waves of transformational light, with the foundation of love, and send this transmuting energy deep into every single particle of life in your geographical region, bringing forth the profound alchemy of true healing in all aspects of self. As we restore the Earth's immune system at this present time to the highest levels of divine strength and invincibility, let us circulate an immense penetration of the cosmic light this Sunday, this solar day, throughout the mass consciousness of the country you're living in, and send this absolving light deep into the bodies, into the minds, into the souls, and into the spirits of every person destined to evolve at this time, now, effecting a thorough holistic purification in this region. Let us raise the collective presence of our world into unity consciousness. So divine great presence, please continue to drench our earth, our sentient planet, in the vast amounts of transformational universal light. keeping it free from any harmful influences, as this is the divine plan, to bring harmony, empowerment, wholeness, and balance, and a positive shift to everyone and everything within this grand sphere of influence, wholeness, and balanced vibrations. Thank you. I got tingles. Brother Sevan, we can't hear you.
Oh, and sister, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Niva. That was beautiful.
Tangles indeed.
Thank you.
So much, Sister Niva.
Beautiful.
See you forever, tribe. And until we meet again, we'll be here inside. Thank you so much.
All right.
Wholeness.
Thank you, family. Wholeness.
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 Wholeness and balance vibration.
I had went in. I had dug in. I was okay. So, all right. That's what we have. Thank you so much, everyone. It's always a pleasure. We'll continue to keep doing what we do, building these bridges. Thank you so much, Keymakers, for coming into this space again and sharing your wealth of knowledge and wisdom and experience. All those that are on the line also listening, typing your messages and saying what's up to all those showing tribe love. We appreciate you. Again, if it's just one of us here, it looks pretty strange. With all of us here, then we recognize what it is. Thank you so much for being a reflection of self. All is self. We'll speak to you soon. Wholeness.
Wholeness.
Yes.